And welcome once again to the PTZ, the Political Twilight Zone. And I'm John Baldwin, and I'm here with the famous Morgan Brittany.
Hello. Good to be back.
Well, I'll tell you, this is just a year that boggles the mind. Things keep happening so rapidly. Within the last month, we found out that syrup is racist. So that's the big takeaway. If you're going to go to the store, be careful what brand of pancake syrup you buy. You could be contributing to racism.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, it just boggles the mind when you think about it. On one hand, they're saying that it's all offensive, that's offensive to black people, Aunt Jemima or Mrs. Butterworth or Uncle Ben. But yet, on the other hand, what are they trying to do? They're trying to erase some of the achievements of, like the woman who was Aunt Jemima and Hattie McDaniel in Gone with the Wind. They want to erase their accomplishments like they never happened. But nobody says anything like that. All it is just pull down the offensive image. Not that image is beloved by so many people.
Yeah.
That's the craziness here. That's where the insanity kicks in.
I don't think these people even realize who these like Aunt Jemima or the girl that was in Gone with the Wind. I don't think they have any clue what their history is, like the other day they were pulling down a statue of Frederick Douglass. I mean, are these people nuts or what?
Yeah. Oh, I know it. I know. I guarantee you, if you asked any one of them who Frederick Douglass was, they would not have a clue. Not a clue. I don't think they know who Jesus Christ was when they pull his statues down.
Well, how are things out in your neck of the woods in California?
Oh my gosh. Well, I did not want you to let me forget this article that came out, and it came actually out of an English paper. And it's the Daily Mail, out of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw was on the ground. This is the title. It says, Hollywood's Identity Crisis. Actors, writers, and producers warn of reverse racism in the film industry, which has created a toxic climate for anyone who is a white, middle-aged man. That's the title.
Wow.
This article goes on to talk about how Hollywood has changed so drastically. They even have a name for white men now, and that name is Menemy. That's what they call a white man who comes in for a job in Hollywood.
So
they have the black artists that are producers, directors, not all, but some, and highly, highly famous ones, have said they will not, on any certain terms, ever hire a white man as a lead in a movie. They are not going to hire white crew members, or they want all the heads of department to be minorities. This is so blatantly an attack on civil rights, and they've put this in public. They're talking about it. They're being quoted.
Wow.
This is just unbelievable.
Wow.
So I didn't want to forget telling you that. In fact, the majority of the below the line people that work as gaffers and grips and sound men and electricians and greensmen and drivers and craft service, and I could go on and on and on. Not the A-list, so to speak, actors, but these other people who literally depend on working in the industry, they're not going to get hired anymore through no fault of their own. And these people they've been hiding their political leanings for decades now, because I know so many of them. They never spoke out. They never let anyone know for fear of being fired. But how do you hide your white face? how do you go in for a job interview and you're white and you're immediately disqualified? This is who I feel bad for. I don't feel bad for the multimillionaire elitist actors. That doesn't bother me a bit. But it's the people who absolutely, through no fault of their own, are losing their jobs because of racism.
Right. And this proof that it goes both ways. You can be no matter what your skin color, you can be a racist. Of course, that's you don't say that in public very often, and you'll get hounded too. But that is nevertheless true.
Yeah, I know. I mean, here, just to give you just one line out of this,
mm-hmm.
It says Selma director. Now, there was a movie called Selma, and it was, I guess, on Martin Luther King. Her name is Ava DuVernay. Now one of the most powerful black women in Hollywood wrote on Twitter, "Everyone has a right to their opinion, and we black producers with hiring power have the right not to hire those who diminish us." So to the white men in this thread, if you don't get that job you were up for, kindly remember, this goes both ways. This is 2020 speaking.
Wow.
Now, is that not a threat to somebody's civil rights? Yeah.
Yep.
And yet nothing will be done. This is the thing. If that was a white person saying that about black people, it would be everywhere. Everywhere.
That is for certain. Wow.
So this is what I've been dealing with for the past couple of days because, my husband's in the business, our friends are in the business, they're all, middle-aged white men. My son-in-law, every one of them are now afraid, well, what do I do? What do we do? Do we have a future? Do we have a job? Is it going to be fair at all? I mean, and their talent doesn't enter into the picture at all. It doesn't make any business. They were even asked about that. They said, well, what if, you can't find enough minorities to fill all these jobs? And they said, oh, it's okay. We'd rather take somebody, with less ability, just not to hire a white person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we going to end up having a two-tier Hollywood system? White people making white films and black people making black films?
Hey, I don't know. Look, the colleges, they want to have segregation. They don't want to have the dorms with the white people anymore. They want to have areas where only blacks and minorities are allowed. I mean, maybe so. Maybe Hollywood will be like that.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, is this not the saddest thing? We were doing, I look back a few years ago, we were doing so good. I mean, we really were. People were getting along. Things were getting better. People were banding together and coming out of unemployment, coming out of the doldrums. I mean, they didn't care what color you were. And then just, the Black Lives Matter thing just took over.
Well, that's definitely, I had not heard anything about that. That's sad to hear that.
It's really sad. And, out here to another California news flash, the teachers, the LA teachers, they've decided now, our illustrious governor has decided to keep the schools closed for the next semester, not letting children go back to school. And the teachers have put in their demands. The only way they will go back, are you ready for this?
Okay.
They want defunding the police, Medicare for all, and no charter schools. What does that have to do with COVID-19?
Nothing. I find it very interesting about no charter schools because that is competition for the indoctrination of our children, because if they go to charter schools or homeschool, then then they can't indoctrinate the children and brainwash them like they've done for the last 50 years. Well, speaking of the COVID, you had some news on that you wanted to share with us.
Well, this morning there was a report from Fox 35 in Orlando, Florida, and an investigative reporter did some research at the Florida Health Department. Come to find out that their testing numbers that they turned in were all errors. They were all wrong. They turned in, now this is testing lab after testing lab, so it was a mistake all over the place. Testing lab came in, one of them, at 98% positive. So this investigative reporter said, that's kind of bizarre. Looking a little further, it was a mistake. It was 9% positive, not 98% positive. So what did they do? The news media all last week was talking about the exploding cases in Florida and how they had to shut everything back down again. Well, guess what? 9% is a far cry from 98%, wouldn't you say?
It's just a rounding error, Morgan. It could happen to anybody.
Yeah, okay. Look, is it incompetence or is it intentional? What is it?
I think it could be both. I know what you're talking about because matter of fact, I just saw the article on Breitbart about an hour before I called you. I think what they're doing is it sounds like they're intentionally reporting all the positive first, then the news media gets a hold of that, and they come back later and report the negatives. And so, when you take that into account, then it goes from 98% down to 9%.
But why in the world would they not? It's just like they're not reporting the accurate number on the deaths. They're not mentioning that the death rate is so low. I mean, any death is horrible from it, but it's not every time you go out of the house you have the risk of dying from COVID. That's not true. In fact, there was a nurse that I heard. She called in on a local radio program, and she said, "I have to tell you that I work at one of the big hospitals in Los Angeles," and she said, "This is what's going on. A woman came in. She was scheduled to have a C-section and deliver her baby. Every single person that comes in the door has to be tested for COVID. All right. She was asymptomatic. She had no symptoms at all, but her test came out positive. She was going to deliver a baby, so they took her in to deliver her baby, but they admitted her as a COVID-19 patient, not as a maternity patient."
What? Wow.
Yeah. So this nurse, she said, "This is happening." There was a guy that came in with a stroke, and he was admitted as a COVID-19 patient. So this is going on to raise the numbers. This is going on because Newsom just re-closed us out here today. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how people are putting up with this. I really don't. They open everything, and then he just randomly decides, "Oh, the numbers aren't what I want them to be, so you're all closed down again." I don't know where that's going where you are. Are they doing that to you too?
No, but our governor did come on today, and they're going to be more strict with enforcing the mask wearing, and they're actually going to send out health officials to different places of business. And if the patrons aren't wearing masks and maintaining a 6 feet distance, then they're going to shut them down. So, no word from the left on the totalitarianism of that.
Right.
He also made the statement that if, you're not wearing a mask and you're irresponsible. And I'm like, my first thought was, well, that means you're talking to yourself, because a month ago you went to Virginia Beach and you weren't wearing a mask. So it's just typical leftist, say one thing, but it doesn't apply to me. But at this point, we're I think we're on phase 3. I don't, but there's no talk of shutting back down yet.
Yeah, well, we're back in phase 1.
Yeah.
We went almost to phase 3, and then he pulled back. And you know why, John. You know why. They got to run this thing to November.
Yeah.
They have to run it to November. We know that. When we know that the fear has to keep it out there, they've got to scare people to death. And Californians are they're falling for it. They're falling for it. I think people, and even where you are, they're not buying it like they are out here.
Well, in Virginia, there's 2 real hotbeds of liberalism. That's in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. The rest of the state, particularly once you get west of Richmond and over into Roanoke and down into far southwest Virginia, is staunchly conservative. So it's not as easy to do here what the governor of California is doing out there. Not that they won't try it again at some point. I wouldn't put it past them. And like you said, the COVID pandemic will go away after the election. Doesn't matter who wins, because if Trump wins, it's no use to keep it up, because he's already won. If Biden wins, it'll go away, because it'll make him look bad if he's president and the COVID is still out there. So yeah, we've got about, I don't know, what is it, July? About 3.5 more months, and then the COVID will just mysteriously disappear.
Mm-hmm. And I absolutely. They were talking today about, we've got promising vaccines, and we've got this and we've got that. And then you listen to the doctors, and the doctors say, there's no guarantee those vaccines are going to work. I guarantee you, if Joe Biden wins in November, one of those vaccines is going to work.
Yeah. It's like...
Guaranteed one of them will work, even if they're just plain old, I don't know, whatever it is that they give you. I mean, seriously, it will go away. You're absolutely 100% right.
Democrats work miracles. If only we had elected John Kerry, then Christopher Reeve would have walked again.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And people don't know what I'm talking.
And I think what will happen too is, they'll get everything they want. See, if their dream wish comes true, and AOC and Bernie Sanders get their platform pushed through with Joe Biden as the face of it, they'll have all their dreams come true. So why would they need Black Lives Matter anymore, right?
That's right.
What are they going to need with that anymore?
They'll just play the theme from Laverne and Shirley, making your dreams come true.
That's right. That's right. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, if somebody had said to me a few years back that this was coming, I would have said, you're out of your mind. There's no way the American people are going to deal with this.
Maybe this is a dream sequence, Morgan. You're familiar with those.
I know. It's funny because I watched the other night, Jack and I sat down and we watched The Matrix. Remember The Matrix in 1999? And that came out and it was so innovative and everything. And we're watching this going, okay, do we take the red pill or the blue pill?
I must admit.
Oh, man. I mean, seriously, are we living? That's what I feel like, that I'm living in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Seriously. And then it's like, okay, well, if I take the blue pill, everything is good. But if I take the red pill, which is very prophetic, since the red pill wants to know the truth, and the red is Republican.
Yes.
And the blue was clueless. That was very interesting.
That is, isn't it? I'd forgotten the different colors of the pills.
Yeah.
I think I watched that movie once and came away with a headache. I'm like, I don't know what I'm watching here. I'm so confused.
Well, it's good we watched it again, because the first time, I'm with you, I went, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then watching it a second time, if you're looking at it 20 years later, you go, whoa,
yeah.
This is way too close to what's going on. But, I mean, it's, I don't know.
Maybe I need to go back and watch the TV series Alias. I wonder how close they were to the truth. I don't remember any particular details of the show, but I remember watching it.
Yeah.
And there was all kind of subterfuge going on there and everything. So,
Yeah,
wow.
I know it.
Well,
Well, a lot of people, Rod Serling with the Twilight Zone was so ahead of his time, and a lot of people, if you really think about it, there have been a lot of things that have foretold a lot of this coming. Interesting.
Yeah, I just went through the Twilight Zone earlier this year, the entire series, and one of the ones that really stuck out for me is there was one that Burgess Meredith was in where he was a librarian, and the state was eliminating librarians because you think about it, that librarians are well educated in the truth because they read a lot. So they were trying to get rid of different people, and they came for him, and it was just an interesting storyline. And he actually, Burgess Meredith, quoted almost the entire 23rd Psalm in that Twilight Zone episode. And I'm thinking, man, that would never fly on television today.
No, you're right.
So, and then the guy that was supposed to be his executioner, actually, I forget the whole thing, but somehow Burgess Meredith scared him enough that he called out to God, and then the state went after this guy, and so, and that gets into, we'll get into the cancer culture here in a little bit. That kind of goes with that. So,
Yeah.
well, let's go into the, it's hard to believe, but with all this stuff going on, we do have an election coming up, even though everything underneath of it is about the election. There's really no, just election news other than just some stuff here and there. I have noticed that it looks like the left is going to repeat the same mistakes they made in 2016. They keep coming out with all these polls showing Biden running away with it. Joe Scarborough has already speculated that Trump is just about on the verge of quitting. He doesn't want to run again because he knows he's going to lose. Hillary Clinton just said today that if Trump gets defeated, we're going to have to watch that because he may refuse to leave. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
You guys still haven't given up your loss in 2016. So anyway, I think they're just setting themselves up for another major defeat this November, and they're going to be surprised by it again. What's your take on it?
Oh, I completely agree with you. And they still do not know who the American people are.
Yep.
They still don't know. 4 years later, and they didn't learn anything. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. They're crazy. Look, nobody in their right mind, when the phone rings, is going to pick up the phone and this guy goes, "Hi, I'm an ABC pollster, and I'd like to know who you're going to vote for." Do you think people are going to go, "Oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump"? No. They're going to go, "Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Why would I be called a racist and a homophobe and take a risk of losing my job? Why would I tell anybody anything?" I mean, I hear this. I'll tell you who I hear this from out here. I hear this from Latinos out here.
Oh, really?
They say we don't dare tell anybody that we're going to vote for Donald Trump because we could get our house burned down or whatever. But they do. There's a huge group of Latinos that love what Trump is doing at the border. They love it because they came here legally. And they're not going to tell these people who they're going to vote for. You just don't do it. That's what happened in 2016. People went into the voting booth and voted for Donald Trump, but didn't tell anybody. But I just don't understand how the liberals and the progressives and the Democrats do not understand who the American people are. And the American people do not want us to be a socialist country. They don't.
And they don't understand, even more importantly, they don't even know their opposition. They have no clue who Trump is or how he operates. They just, and he knows this. That's why it's such so much fun to watch him tweak them on a daily basis almost, because he knows exactly what to say to get them. It's like he throws a piece of meat in the water, like blood in the water. They go pounce on that. while he's over here talking to the American people and making sense to them, and they're just totally missing it. And like you said with the Hispanics, I've never understood how the media and the left automatically assumes that Hispanics and blacks are going to vote, that every one of them is going to vote for the Democrats. Now, in the past, I can understand with the black vote, they've gotten upwards of 90% of the vote, and I can understand maybe they took them for granted. But I just read an article yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that Biden is underperforming among the black community. It's like something like 86% approval rating for him among the black, or they're planning to vote for. Now that, people say, well, 86%, that's pretty good. Well, not when, Barack Obama got like 92, 95% of the vote. All Trump needs is about 12 to 15% of the black vote, and he will win this thing going away.
You bet. And
So,
not only that, but here's the other thing. They're not taking into consideration the enthusiasm for the candidate. Biden has none.
yeah.
Nobody shows up to anything that he ever does. They don't ever show more than 10 people in a room and they say it's COVID. Well, it's not. There's not people waiting outside watching it on a monitor. So there's no enthusiasm for Biden. And there's tons of it for Trump. The enthusiasm there is going to get people to the polls. But that's why they're depending on mail-in voting, so that they can mark those ballots and put those ballots as Democrat. Don't think... I'm telling you, that's what they're planning on doing. And they're going to scare people to death so that they say, I can't go out of my house because if I go to the polls, I'm going to get COVID. And so we have to have mail-in voting. Well, it's not going to work. I'm telling you, it is not going to work. I think the Republicans are on it. I think they know what's coming. But there's no enthusiasm for Biden. There's none. And there's not one VP he can put on that ticket that is going to create enthusiasm. If it's Hillary Clinton, forget it. If it's Michelle Obama, I kind of doubt it. She would be the only one that might generate some enthusiasm. But the rest of them, Kamala Harris tanked. She had to quit her campaign because she ran out of money. Nobody was supporting her.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that. You look at all these other people. I mean, who are these people that he's vetting to be vice president? Who are they? What, leftist mayors and governors? And really?
So,
yeah, but there would be hell to pay if it's not a woman.
True.
At least a woman. It maybe not a black woman, but it has to be a woman.
yeah.
Because there would be hell to pay. And Cuomo wants it. I'm sure he does, because he knows Biden is